Hello, my name's Nick Acker. This is a series of readings of the book A Crisis of Meaning, an apology for traditional religion. This is an excerpt from the book. It's available online at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, uh, through Exxon, the publisher, and you can be ordered at your local bookstore. At this point, I can think of one very good question you may have. Why traditional religion? Why do I believe that is the answer to this crisis? It is because of what we have lost. We currently do not have much of anything tying us together. But that wasn't always the case. The types of bonds people once had are now gone or deeply impaired. Those things included, but were not limited to, stories, traditions, community, culture, language, and beliefs. These are the practices and experiences that a bound people share. A quick glance at each one, and you will see the problem is glaring. Americans do not tell the same story about their history or about themselves that they once did. Americans no longer engage seriously in more than a few traditions. And of those kept, the stories surrounding them are no longer the same. American communities are no longer a place of unity or bonding, not since the era of identity politics has risen to prominence. Being one's neighbor is no guarantee of feeling connected. Americans no longer share a culture. Instead, different cultures exist between different groups, which connects those groups while establishing differences between them and others. American culture, in an overarching sense, does not exist in a meaningful way that can bind different people together, as it once did. American English is still spoken, but its underpinning, its history, and its approval are held in much less regard and agreement than at any other point. Americans no longer share many unifying beliefs. America, a place built on beliefs more than possibly any other nation, cannot agree about right and wrong, good and bad. All of this is truly sad. Again, you may say, why would traditional religion fix any of these fissures? You may even think it would further widen them. But let's consider one of the practices that have bound people in the past. Let us consider stories. America has always been a story, possibly more than any country in the modern era. Those stories have defined people for a very long time. Let us take the example of ancient Greece to demonstrate the utility of being bound together by a story. Ancient Greece told its story in two major events, both representing the same struggle. Greece was born in the battles of the old world and the new, of east and west. There was first the famed story of Troy, where a Trojan prince stole the wife of a Grecian king. The Grecian king rallied all the kingdom of his region to join each other in war for this great offense. They were to reclaim his wife and avenge themselves on the kingdom of Troy, a kingdom of the old Asiatic world. Beautiful Helen, the wife of the Grecian king, whose beauty enticed the Trojan prince to carry her away, was said to have launched 1,000 ships. This battle is described in Homer's epic, the Iliad, in which not only men, but the gods themselves fight in the struggle between these two kingdoms. The Greeks heralded as the victors of the Trojan War did so after 10 long years of fighting, by trusting to the wiles of Odysseus and the judgment and approval of the gods. This story says they are victors in a struggle over right and honor, who can overcome the stronger fortresses of the old world, that their cunning and ingenuity is not only better, but blessed by heaven itself to overcome all odds. This happened again in the Persian Wars, in which the Persian armies warred with the Greeks. During the Persian War, Greek bravery, righteous cause, and ingenuity helped them overcome the much larger forces of the old Asiatic world, the very birthplace of civilization. In these wars, as there were multiple that occurred over the reign of two different Persian kings, Darius and Xerxes respectively, the Greeks were fighting for their liberty from this eternal empire, which sought to rule over them. In fact, a revolt by a Grecian state is what began the First War, but the Battle of Marathon would see them liberated from Darius's threat of enslavement. A Persian king would attempt again to reclaim Europe for himself after ruling all of Asia and avenging his grandfather's defeat. Xerxes amassed an army so large it was said to drink whole rivers dry. It was during this war at Thermopylae that the 300 Spartan and Greek soldiers made a daring stand with the assistance of many others, though the Spartans did hold the front line, against the much larger Persian army, succeeding with their superior military technology and tactics. It was not until the Greeks were betrayed by having a route to the other side of the pass shown to Xerxes that the Persians were finally able to take the advantage in the fight. But even surrounded and doomed to fail, the Spartans refused to surrender. Today a monument stands commemorating the act of bravery and fortitude. On it is the phrase, "Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie." Their laws against surrender. They were never to surrender, not under any circumstances. That was where their obedience lay. And all was not lost after Thermopylae. A final naval battle at Salamis would rely not only on bravery and more advanced military technology and techniques, also again on wit and trickery. The Persians were told that the Grecian army was at Salamis, but that many were to desert the night before the battle. Xerxes, in anticipation of this, had his ships stationed where he expected them to flee from, at the opening to the narrow waterway. They rowed back and forth all night. In the morning, with not a single ship having deserted, the tired Persians heard the battle cry and rowed into the narrow channel, where their tired rowers could not maneuver their large ships, neither could they withstand the ramming of the superiorly built Grecian ships. Here, finally, at Salamis, the Greeks were truly free, and without fear of the bondage of the old world ever returning. It was Herodotus' histories, telling this tale of the Persian War, that would have him named the father of history. These stories connected the citizens of Greece for the ancient period, and even connect us to them to this very day. The battle of the old world, Troy and Persia, and the new world, Greece or Europe, it was a battle for liberty and for justice, a battle won by the blessing of heaven and the ingenuity of the people, Stories like these are what tell a people where they come from and what they value, who they should aspire to be. Themes of this sort also surrounded the American founding as well. Our founding is a story of bravery and ingenuity, one in which a much smaller and disjointed people come together to throw off the bonds and oppression of the old world. You do not have to agree with the framing of the American founding, but please appreciate the effect of the story and its similarities with that of ancient Greece. The story goes that America came from the old world of kings and queens, where birth defined your place in the world. That the colonists, feeling oppressed by their king, desired liberty, equality, and justice, that the old world would not permit. And this they felt so strong that they risked their lives fighting the most powerful empire in the world. Through bravery, determination, and inventiveness, as righteous cause and the blessing of heaven, they overcame all odds and were free. They were free to walk a new path in a new world, not bound by the powers and traditions as of the old world. You may or may not like this story, but it does everything I promised. It does give a history, a standard, an aim. It can guide the people who identify it as their story. A culture is one thing, but what about the individual? We are all individuals in the end, and the one problem with talking about advice for society and culture is that it is too easy to see it as good advice for other people. But for that reason, I think a more individual example may clarify the benefit of a story. Here, I will have to use myself as an example, as there is no story I know more intimately. What story do I tell myself? What does it tell me about where I come from? What aim does it give me? I am a Christian, and this is my story. There is a God. He is the beginning that had no beginning, and who made possible all other beginnings. God created all, and in so doing created mankind. Male and female created he them. Genesis 5:2. As his last creation, God wants us to be and to do good on earth. Good is an opposite of bad. For there to be good, there must be bad. For us to do good, we must be able to choose to do bad. The ability to choose, the choice, is divine freedom. We were made with the ability to choose to freely to do good, but we were born in a fallen nature and will always and repeatedly struggle to do good in all times, in all places. In my tradition, we confess these, our sins, by saying, we have left undone those things which we ought to have done, and we have done those things we ought not to have done, which is the fallen nature of mankind, being imperfect. It is God's law that we should continue to struggle, to seek always to change our hearts and minds towards the good. For God is truth, purity, loveliness, and goodness. When we follow that which is true and pure and lovely and of good report, we are following God and his law. For despite our imperfections, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. John 3:16 and 17. While here on earth his Son Jesus Christ said of his teachings, "These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. John 15:11. This is my story. This is the story which makes me full. It has provided me with hope, with purpose, and with joy. It tells me I am loved despite my flaws, and that I should seek continuously to be better than I am. It has told me that I am born in the image of God, Genesis 1:27, as are all people everywhere. We are to love your neighbor as yourself, Mark 12:31. For Christ said, "A new commandment I give unto you, that ye love one another as I have loved you, that ye also love one another." John 13:34. This is my story. It is not tied to any achievement or place or position or age or any other worldly factor, except the mere existence of being human. I do share this with all others, and can share it with all others. This story can be ours, because this story is ours, all of ours, mine and yours together, for in it we are bound.